Thank you so much, Dr. Erica Warren, for coming in today. And it's such a pleasure having you again. We had a great talk about, you're a learning expert and you have done multiple research in the past to come up with learning styles techniques for not only for students, but also parents. You have combined them. So you see the benefit of also parents knowing their learning style when they help their kids, right? So I wanted to bring you here today to expand that. And you have a great product to take inventory of the child's learning style as well as the parents. So I wanted you to explain that to our, parents who have joined for the summit and starting this journey. And then I wanted to start them off on the right way, right? Because learning styles are most important. So I'll let you explain.
You'll see a lot of bad rap on learning styles. There was research out there that suggested that learning styles don't exist.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. I mean, the bottom line is we don't learn the same way. Everybody learns differently. So that right there suggests, well, you can't say that everybody learns the same way. So basically the concept is that, let's not call it learning styles if that makes people uncomfortable. It's really what I did is I went outside of learning styles and I did research on cognitive styles, information processing, and multiple intelligences. What that did is it combined all of the research and the methods. And it's something that I've been using and researched over the last 20 years and I've been using it over the last 20 years and I've shifted it and changed it. But it's been very stable for the last 10 years. And so I've broken it down into 12 different ways of learning. And what it comes down to, if you don't want to call it a learning style, really what it is a processing style. We all have different cognitive strengths and weaknesses, and we're going to be more comfortable using certain areas of cognition because those are areas that are easy for us to use. They're strengths, or we enjoy processing that way. And if we can help parents and homeschoolers to understand their child's best ways of processing, then education is going to be more fun. Yes. And they're going to be more engaged and they're going to enjoy it more. In my private practice where I work with kids individually, both in person and online, I always assess what their best ways of learning are. And interestingly enough, in the consultations, I also assess the parents because we all have our own reality. And it's really, really difficult to step out of your own ways of learning. Mm-hmm. If it's distracting for you to have music on when you're learning, you're not going to be able to understand how it could possibly be helpful for somebody else. But in fact, it is. For some people, noise serves as white noise and blocks out unexpected noise. Mm-hmm. For other people, it gets them into a groove and the beat helps them to kind of stay into whatever they're doing. So the bottom line is that each of the 12 ways of learning that we'll talk about today is on a continuum. Mm-hmm. And everybody is somewhere on that continuum. And ideally, we want to move everybody to be comfortable in each of the 12 ways of learning. If you start to learn a new way, it just expands cognition. It's almost a form of cognitive remediation. But initially when I work with kids, I teach the way that they're most comfortable learning. That way I connect with them, they trust me, and then I can expand out to other ways of learning and teach them. There's always a possibility that, for example, a child may never be a tactile learner. Maybe they have dysgraphia. And it's just not the best way for them to learn. It's too slow, it's too laboring, it's too uncomfortable. Hopefully in time they'll get more comfortable with it. But we don't have to force them to learn that way right now. Let's use the other ways of learning so that they don't shut down, so that they learn to enjoy learning. So let me go ahead and share my screen and I will go into the 12 ways of learning. So right here is I've created an image of these kind of 12 ways of learning or processing. Mm-hmm. There are those, and there are these kind of traditional ways of learning that most people have heard about: the visual, auditory, tactile, kinesthetic. Mm-hmm. Visual meaning that, It's something that you can see. So being able to see the information is really helpful. That might be through images, but it can also be through inner visualizations. I'm a huge proponent of visualization because that's something that most kids love. They love imagination. Imagination makes learning fun. And then we've got auditory learners, and they need to hear what they're learning. And it's actually one of the least popular ways of learning. However, the influx in podcasts and audiobooks have actually made it a more popular way of learning because people are getting more exposed to it and they're practicing it more. There are tactile learners, and there are two types of tactile learners. There's those that like it, as in the image, they like hand gum. They like to squeeze things. They like those tactile toys. And then there are those that actually the formation of words, that fine motor movement of writing out your notes actually helps to encode the information. There are kinesthetic learners. Kinesthetic learners love to move. So telling a kinesthetic learner to sit still is not going to be helpful. In fact, you want to say, get up and move around. But you can see if a parent wasn't a kinesthetic learner and that was agitating to them, it could create a real issue. So you can always get things like a trampoline, one of those little trampolines, and say, okay, I'll test you. You can move around, but I don't have to look at you. But giving them little kinesthetic breaks, it can be really, really helpful. But you can see if you don't learn that way, you're like, how could that possibly help? But that's why it's important for the parent to take the inventory and the child to take the inventory. And I have an adult as well as an easier one, a younger one for younger children to take. If they're super young, you can always assess them qualitatively. Just by trying the different ways of learning and exposing them. That's what we want to do. And the really little ones is just expose them. Sequential learners learn in a sequence, a step-by-step process. What comes first, what comes second, what comes third. It's a way of organizing, and so is simultaneous. Simultaneous is, what's the big picture? What are the categories? How do we learn this? Oh, webs and diagrams often have categories to them. The main idea is a perfect example. And you'll see a web of the main idea and then the details off, just as in the image. And that really is helpful for a simultaneous learner. So there are 3 ways of organizing, or really 4 ways that are easy to organize. Visually, tactily, where you put it last, sequentially in a sequence, and simultaneous, which is being able to see that big picture and the categories. There's reflective logical. And those are kids that or even adults that love to think about things, that thinking is really helpful for them, that they just need time to reflect upon it and make those interconnections. Verbal learners like to process out loud. They just need time to think out loud and to discuss things. Interactive learners love to work with others. So it's not the talking, it's the interaction, it's the company. So an interactive learner will want the parent to be there all the time just because they want their company. They want that connection. Connection is really important. And in the time of COVID, a lot of interactive learners have really struggled because they've been in online learning and they just don't have their peers around them. And that's really hard. And their teachers are only virtual. There's indirect experience learning, which is vicarious learning, which is watching a demonstration. And YouTube is a wonderful resource for that. There's direct experience learning. And the direct experience learner actually likes to have the experience themselves. So going to the aquarium or to the science museum or snorkeling, and actually seeing the fish themselves and learning about them, versus the rhythmic melodic learner. And this is another one where you can break this into 2 categories. There are those that love to learn to a rhythm and a beat. They walk to a rhythm and beat. They sing a lot. But learning things and memorization can be really helpful for them. The alphabet song, it helped all of us. And then there are those that just they like to have music to block the unexpected noise, and music can be very, very helpful for them if they have attentional issues. So those are the 12 ways of learning. This is actually just an image of the product is called the Eclectic Learning Approach, and you can find it on Good Sensory Learning. And what it is it offers you an inventory, one for younger children as well as for adults. The adult one can be used with middle school and high school as well. It just has more items. And then, of course, within this, you also, after you do the actual inventory, I offer all sorts of recommendations. And I'm actually going to move on to that just to show you. So, for example, for visual learners, it gives you a definition. It gives you a whole series of learning strategies. It also offers organizational strategies for those that need that executive functioning support. And then I also offer technology and product suggestions on how to empower those kids, whether it's something very specific, like Inspiration, which is a tool that helps you to visually map ideas, to TED Ed videos. Mm-hmm. But so once you get the profile, and let's look at what a scored profile might look like. So I'm giving you just a piece of it. This is an example profile of a student. And as you can see, if you look at the red numbers, that's their total sum. The higher the number, the more empowered they are in that way of processing or learning. So you can see this child is very much of a kinesthetic learner. Mm-hmm. So they really love movement, and movement is extraordinarily beneficial for them. Now, just so you know, to back up a little bit, there's circles. So if they indicated an item, they get a circle. If they star an item, they can only star 6. Then they get added weight. So that's why for visual, we've got a circle, and star, which is 3. And basically what they're asked is, what is the best of the best? After they actually circle the items that resonate with them. But as you can see, so using a lot of kinesthetic movement is going to be very beneficial for this student. And then what they can do is they can go to the sheet, they can look at what are all the strategies for the kinesthetic learner, and then it empowers them both in their lessons, in the way that they help the kids get organized, and in the tools that they can use. Mm-hmm. What to note is that, well, we don't want to just do kinesthetic, we want to do kinesthetic, tactile, we want to do visual. And the beautiful thing about this is when you layer them, so if you do an activity that's both kinesthetic and tactile, mm-hmm. it's going to be a 9. You can add the numbers. Mm-hmm. And what you'll find is it's just a quick and easy way to guide you towards your instruction so mm-hmm. that the kids are going to be having fun, that they're going to be engaged, that it's going to be easier for them, and that they're going to be more attentive because it's just more comfortable for them to learn this way. Mm-hmm. So, for this particular student, I would say, you want to focus on a lot of kinesthetic activities, a lot of tactile activities. You want to make things visual. Number 25 happens to be visualization. Mm-hmm. So, using imagination would be really fun, but you could see how imagination and tactile and kinesthetic, a lot of imaginary play for this kid could be really, really fun. Also bringing in the interactive. So they don't want to be working by themselves. So getting them involved in small groups or working with them one-on-one is going to be really fun for them. Mm-hmm. They also get a 3 in indirect experience. So giving them a demonstration is going to be really helpful. But then you want to let them do it. You want to let them touch it themselves. So with these types of kids, I would probably we both have a dry erase board and dry erase markers. So whenever I was doing a demonstration, they could do it at the same time. Wow, okay, all of a sudden I've combined indirect experience with tactile. Mm-hmm. So now we're up to a 7. So it just gives you all sorts of, very concrete ways of how to empower a student. And what you can do to really make the learning process engaging and fun. And during this time of COVID, so many kids are really struggling with the learning process. And if you can give them these new ways of processing in a way that's empowering for them, it can really be a game changer.
Yes. Last time when I ran the summit, I gave away one of the book to one of the parents, right? Because I thought, when I looked at it, it was very informative, and you explain this, how to do this exactly in the guide too, right? They can go through it and do it correctly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a good instruction for that. And as well as the best part is you give suggestions. A lot of the time, okay, now we know he's kinesthetic, but then how do I do it, right? For parents to come up with all the, activities and see what's going to click or work for that child is hard, but you give suggestions, so that's awesome.
Oh yeah, they're very comprehensive. So there's a lot of information for each of the different ways of learning. So if you figure that your child has maybe cuts across 5 ways of learning are very popular, you can use these sheets. So again, learning styles, use visual associations and vivid imagery to enhance memory. So it goes into all sorts of different ways to instruct the students so that you have a lot of information. And then again, how do you organize a visual learner? Yeah. And then again, technology and products. What type of technology can you use? And I'm not saying I have some specific stuff, but most of it is very general, like how can they study? What are the best study tools? How to use them? And with live links so that they can actually go to those particular tools and access them. Many of them are free. Many of them are websites that I think are very helpful for a specific way of learning. But the idea is to really give them very, very specific ways so that they can, but there's a lot of ways. So it's not going to send you down a rabbit hole. It's going to really widen the scope. And then again, remember if you go back to the learning style, once the kid is really into it and engaged, you can always start to try to develop some of these other skills by bringing in some auditory, which this student didn't have anything. Does it mean that they can't learn auditorily? Not at all. It means that they can learn auditorily, but it's not their favorite or their best way of learning. So you can develop those skills. And but at first you want to go with the most empowering ones. But you'd be surprised if you weave them in, then those scores will start to come up. And you can give the test, I would say, every 6 months, and you'll see that it shifts and morphs a little bit, which is exciting to see their growth. But also know that there is another version. There is a version for professionals, and parents can get that too if they want to. It goes more into the research behind it. It goes more into how to teach a group of learners. It has workshop materials so that you can teach others to teach in a multisensory fashion. So it goes a lot deeper.
Yeah, thank you. I want to ask, touch on the parents. You did say it earlier, but just to recap that, why is it important when you're starting a homeschooling or some kind of journey at home, or even like helping at home, right, during this online courses? Why is it important that they need to do this, the parents?
Well, it's nice to discover what your best ways of learning are. And the funny thing is you'll be very surprised at, like, wow, this is so good. How did it know me so well? And it helps you just to know yourself better. Because the bottom line is we teach the way we learn. That's the natural way to teach. So if it's really important for you to organize things in a sequence, because that really helps you to learn, you're going to really push that on your students. But wait a minute, what if that's not, what if this is your child and this is their profile, and you're constantly pushing sequential ways of processing on that student? Then they're going to get frustrated. They may shut down, and they may not like you as a teacher. That doesn't help, Mom. That doesn't help. And of course it does. And you get a lot of that if the parents don't learn the same way that their child learns. And you'd think, well, isn't it genetic? Not that I've ever seen. When I do parent and child and family profiles all the time, and they're wildly different from one another. So it's important to step out of your way of learning to accommodate others.
Very important. So that you eliminate the battles that you might have to.
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
Yes. I have a question here. Where can they get it, and how to know what type of learner I am and my child is? Absolutely, to take the test, the inventory, right? Not a test, it's an inventory.
It's an inventory. It's for the younger kids, it's 36 items. And for older, it's 48 items. And it also offers some information on how to answer the questions if the kids have questions. Sometimes the kids may not be exposed to a method of learning. And if that's the case, you can always skip that item. Or you can spend some time exposing them to it and then take the inventory again. So it's something that you can take over and over again. You can get it at goodsensorylearning.com. Yeah. And you can go into the little search feature and put ELP, which stands for Eclectic Learning Profile. You can access it that way.
And I want to ask you about this though. You developed this, through research. Is that correct? You were telling me earlier this morning, right?
Yes, I developed it over a 20-year period. So while I was getting my doctorate, I started research on this, and then when I started to work with the kids, I tested it out and used it and morphed it and changed it. And over the last 10 years, it's been very, very stable. So it works really, really well. I do a lot of workshops on it and go into a lot of schools and use this as a way of helping teachers to step out of their best ways of learning so that they can accommodate all the different learners. So I teach a lot of workshops on multisensory teaching. And it's great for class profiles too, and that's where you go into the professional one, which is a little bit more expensive than this one. I think this one's somewhere around $15, and I think the professional one's around $30. It's
not a lot. And I was going to say that as a math coach 5 years ago, I started using other tests. Now, since I met you, I've been using yours with my students, but it helps so much in terms of just connecting with them, right? Like you just have this inner understanding of this child right off the bat, So it's just...
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. And I'll never forget one of these kids saying, like, how did you do that? Are you like a magician? How do you know me so well? It's really fun. I use this for all of my consultations, the professional level one, because it really helps you to understand a family profile. So, I would encourage families to give the profile to the whole family, because then you have a better way of understanding each other and being more compassionate with each other. So if dad's a reflective, logical learner, you just got to give him time to think about it. When you ask him something, he's going to say, I need to think about it. You know what? He really needs to think about it. If he's working with his son and he wants his son to think about it, well, maybe his son is very verbal and he needs to step out of his way of learning and say, you know what, son, let's talk about it. Even if that's not comfortable for him, if that's what his son needs. And it's amazing when you do start to step out of your comfort zone and accommodate everybody else's, relationships improve dramatically. So it's I've had a couple people say, wow, this is like the best therapy we've had. We now know how to communicate with each other more effectively, and we know how to empower each other, and we have more patience. Mom, really needs things organized. She's really high and sequential and simultaneous. And okay, as a child, I'm going to clean my bedroom, not for me. I'm going to do it for mom because she can't think if things are disorganized. So it's lovely how it does create a sense of compassion, and it teaches people that we don't all process the same way, and that's okay. And that, wow, here are some tools so that you can still be friends with people that process very differently. And you can feel really proud of yourself for being able to step out of your comfort zone. But even then, you grow. You start to see, wow, that really works. Maybe I should give that a shot.
Yep.
So it just helps to expand your own cognition.
Yeah, and good conversation starter with your kids too. Look at your score, right? Like you can,
yeah.
Very, very.
They're fascinated, and they find it kind of fun. Yes. They think it's cool. And with the really little ones, if they can't read the items or they have any reading difficulties, you can give it to them auditorily. And sometimes I'll do that for the whole family if I don't want the child to feel everybody else can read and I can't, or I'm not a very good reader. I'll read it to the whole family and so we'll go through each item and then I can say, do you have any questions? So that way I can elaborate. But I do offer some elaborations in the publication itself. So if you have particular questions, how to handle that.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been very important information that I think parents should know. Not only do your child's, learning styles and learning how they process. Better way to put it, as you said earlier, right?
Yes.
How they process.
And it's more accurate. It's
Yeah.
how you process reality, how we process the world. Everybody processes it a little bit differently.
Yeah, yeah. And then also do your own way so you don't stand in the way or think that this is the only way to do things, right? I think as a parents, we sometimes have these
Sure.
rules. Yeah.
Well, it's our reality. It's our reality. But I'll tell you what, we can open up our reality. And the best teachers are the ones that have pretty high scores across all of them. So if you find that you've got a low score, it's an opportunity for you to expand your own cognition.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, I tanked on sequential, but now I'm quite sequential. I've really developed that skill over time. By working with kids, I'll say, like, wow, I can't believe this works, but they're sequential, so I'm gonna give them these strategies, and they love it. It works really well, but then exposes me more to it. And I would say at this point, I'm really comfortable with all the different ways of learning. But wow, has it expanded my own cognition. Compassion too. It's great.
Yes. Thank you very much. Have a great day. And I think all parents should buy one of these and use it. It'll be a great eye opener for all of them, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.